What's up, everybody? It's Life of Zander coming at you hot. This week's video is going to be detailed on cage building 101, the things that you need, the things that you don't need to make sure that you guys can properly care for and house the coolest, the one and only, the Asian water monitor. So we'll get right to it. I got some feedback from some of the previous two videos I uploaded, and you guys were saying, get to the point quicker. So we're going to jump right in, huh, Zander? Huh, Zander? You're so cute. All right. Cage building 101. Large body of water. First thing you guys need in order to properly care for an Asian water monitor is a large body of water. There's two things I want you guys to know about this body of water. One, it has a plumbing and filter system set up. I highly suggest that someone is considering an Asian water monitor do the research they need to properly building and taking care of as far as the maintenance goes for the plumbing required to have a tub. I highly suggest, number two, that you can build a larger body of water than the one that you guys see right here in Zander's cage based off of the size. Oh, look, he's yawning. How cute. Look at that perfect timing. Based off of the size that Zander is right now, this body of water is fine for him. If it was larger, would it be better? Absolutely. Do I have the intention of building a larger body of water? Absolutely. It should be done within the next 3 to 6 months, roughly. But we'll keep getting to it. I'll show you guys how the plumbing works for this. But the reason that I said for number one that I do recommend you have a pump and a filter is because if you don't, you will have to drain and refill the water in a water monitor's tub daily. I'm going to repeat that. Daily. You need it every day. These guys need clean water. If you guys don't know, water monitors use the water source for drinking, but they also use that source for cooling down, and they defecate in it about 8 out of 10 times. What does defecate mean? They're peeing and pooping in the water that they drink and swim in. So you need to make sure you have a really well done pump and filter system to clean all that out in between all the digging that they do and the peeing and the pooping. Because they're drinking that same water, you got to make sure it's good for them. So if you are draining it every single day, the positive is you don't need to spend a bunch of money on a pump and a filter, but I promise you will eventually need to do that. You can only get away with that probably for the first year, maybe year and a half max of a water monitor's life, because as they get larger and larger, their poops get bigger and bigger, and that will become an issue. So also the negative is that if you're having to refill it every single day, you're wasting a ton of water realistically, and that's going to really add to your water bill. So we'll get to the pump in just a sec for plumbing system and the filter system, but that's the primary reason that you see a lot of these bigger water monitors with a pump and a filter with plumbing, because it's required whenever they get that big. But you can get away with it for a little bit of time whenever they're smaller. So real quick, I'm just going to show you guys the pump and filter system we have. Both of these devices are set up from the Hayward company. This is the filter. It's got 300 pounds of sand inside there that's used to filter out the water. This is the pump. Super powerful. Like I said, this is Hayward. There's plenty of other brands that are good out there. I lucked out and I got this for free when my parents got rid of the pool in their backyard. I got all the equipment, and then I used that to build Zander's cage. So to make this real simple, this pump, what it does is it sucks the water from this bottom PVC pipe in the tub, which is at the bottom of the drain. It takes it and it shoots it through this PVC pipe on the back end, comes up here. It goes through the filter, 300 pounds of sand, and then it goes back through the other PVC right over here on the top, back into the cage. And that's how this functions. When I want to drain this entire filter as well as drain the entire tub, all I do is I take this lever that's on the top, I rotate it, and a lot of these will function the same. 180 degrees, then you turn it back on. I'm not going to do that right now, but I just wanted to show you guys how it works. It's real sticky. And then you turn it back on. The only other thing you guys want to know is that over here on the wall, I'll zoom in. Sorry if the quality's really bad. That's just a timer, okay? So I have this set to run for a half hour at a time for over 4 hours a day. I don't have it running 24/7 because my electric bill skyrockets when I do that. So that's just a pro tip. Have it on a timer, and then you guys will be good. That's the plumbing and the filter system. We'll jump right back into it, continue with cage building 101. We just did number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 4, basking shelf. You got to have a good sized basking shelf to properly care for these guys. Over here, I have two 250 watt heat emitters, and then I have 2 UVA UVB bulbs. I'll explain why I have those here in a moment. This basking spot, you want 130 degrees or more. There's been a lot of recent studies that show that water monitors can do great with temperatures, basking spots of over 130 degrees, up to 150, and it's great for them actually. So I know it sounds like, oh my gosh, 150 degrees is insane. It's great for these guys. It really, really is. So 130 to 150. I keep this at about 130 all the time. Right now, it's probably a couple of degrees under that because Zander was basking up here for a little while. All right, so 98, 120. We keep going. 120. Yeah, he was up here for quite a bit then. Saw 123 in there, 122. So the reason I'm showing you guys this is that you want to know how an Asian water monitor needs its energy and heat to properly digest. Step 1, the plates that I have here, these are tile. They absorb a ton of the heat. So right now, with that surface temp, we just use the heat gun. It's 120 to 124 degrees on this whole area, meaning that when Zander lays down on it, his stomach underneath is absorbing all of that heat. And then on top of that, the 2 heat emitters are still nuking him from above. And they're, because he's a couple inches taller, he's closer to the heat lamps. The top of his back is actually going to get even hotter than 120, 130 degrees. The longer that Zander's up here on this basking spot, the cooler the tile becomes because it's being absorbed into his stomach. The reason that that's really important that you guys have these hot basking areas is that water monitors need over 100 degrees body temperature to properly digest their food. So that way they're healthy and they don't have any food rot in their stomach. And that's really important that these guys can be healthy. So that's why we have these really hot basking temperatures. Up here, the UVA, UVB bulbs, the primary reason that I have those is because I have this cage built indoors. There's no natural sunlight. If you have natural sunlight for an Asian water monitor, it can help them, but they're not necessarily going to be healthier. Is it recommended that you can provide natural sunlight? Yes. Is it mandatory? No, it is not. Okay? Many breeders will agree with me on that one, and it is kind of common knowledge for these guys at this point. It is not required that you have to have natural sunlight. Now, as far as this cage goes, even though I have these UVA, UVB bulbs to give Zander the proper nutrients that he needs, what's up, buddy? You can see him behind me. Even though I have these set up, I still take Zander out of the cage all the time, especially in the summertime. I take him out a couple times a week for a couple hours at a time. So that way he can get stretch outside of his cage. He can go explore different parts of my yard and whatnot, and he gets natural sunlight. It's really good for him. Like I said, it's just not required, so I just want you guys to be aware of that. The only other thing that I would say, just as a pro tip, be aware that these UVA, UVB bulbs do have some cancer-causing agents in them. So we're going to get to practicality on number 8 for monitor cage building 101. You got to make sure you're staying safe. So I never hang out for a long time in this cage when those lights are on. If I'm going to actually be spending a lot of time, let's say, standing right here, as close as I can to these, I'll come up in here and I'll just turn them off. There we go. So I just turn them off. So right now, I'm not at harm's risk. So I just wanted to show you guys that as a pro tip. But we'll keep getting to it. Next one, substrate. We'll make this really short and sweet. For substrate, you're going to want several inches. There we go. This is concrete at the bottom, all right? So you got several inches of substrate. This is cypress mulch and leaf litter, right? This is great for keeping humidity as well as giving him something that he likes to dig in. cypress mulch and leaf litter, and peat moss are the top 3 recommended substrates for Asian water monitors that are found in their natural habitat and do a great job of keeping humidity. So, pro tip, substrate. Number 2 for substrate, you actually want to be able to provide what we call a lay box, or just a deeper substrate digging area that you can provide for your water monitor. So I actually just started building this. I'm going to fill this area, 3 feet of substrate. The reason that I had to build a separate box for this is if I had the rest of this area surrounding me filled up to 3 feet high, it would completely defeat the purpose of having this walking area. So I can have several inches of substrate over here and behind me. But when it comes to actually giving Zander the ability to dig, we do that in the lay box, where he can dig deep into the substrate, he can burrow if he wants to, he can use that area to cool down, and he actually does on a regular basis. So I'll have this filled up within the next 2 weeks, and you guys will be able to see it on our future YouTube videos, but definitely be able to see it on a daily basis on our Instagram channel. If you guys haven't seen that yet, just check out Life of Zander on Instagram for the daily life of this awesome Asian water monitor. That's substrate. Number 6, Levolution. You guys can see right now, Zander just got in the tub. He climbed up there on this ramp. Then he climbed up this second ramp to go over here to his heating area. The reason that Levolution is really important is because in order to be healthy, just like humans, they need to exercise, right? Water monitors need to exercise just like we do. So the reason that we suggest you have large bodies of water is they can exercise in them. The reason that we suggest you have large cages is that it gives them a lot of opportunity for activity, digging, climbing. These pillars that you guys see right here, Zander climbs straight up these pillars several times a day, comes straight up onto this area. He doesn't always come up the ramp. Sometimes he goes up this pillar and he climbs straight up. You guys can see all the little scratch marks on this guy, which is pretty cool. That's from Zander using it to climb. So you want a lot of Levolution in a cage. One of my top tips for folks that are planning on building a cage, or they're going through the initial rough draft plans for what they're going to have a cage set up as, the taller the cage, the better, especially when water monitors are really young. The first cage I put Zander in was 3 feet wide by 2 feet deep by 6 feet high. And it worked great because he could climb on multiple different levels in the cage, and he was increased activity. He was probably stronger as a hatchling, I guess you could say, and a adolescent monitor, because I gave him the ability to climb all the time. It was awesome, and he loved it. So I do highly suggest that. So we'll keep on going just so we can cut this pretty soon. Levolution 6, 7 insulation. In order to properly get the humidity in the right areas, you can see right up here, this is on the higher section of the cage, 97% humidity, 85 degrees temperature, 97. Lower in the cage, it's going to drop a little bit, 66% humidity, 82 degrees ambient temp. In order to do that, I had to insulate all the walls in this cage. I had to insulate the ceiling in this cage. I had to insulate the glass in this cage. These are double pane glass sliding doors. I'd lose a ton of heat and potentially humidity if I wasn't insulated. So super important, keeping the temperatures and humidity correct. Last one, practicality. I'm going to step out of the cage and then we can go over this. What I mean by practicality is 2 things. Number 1, what is practical for your water monitor? What are they going to use? What are they not going to use? This is definitely going to be some trial and error, primarily because every water monitor, just like every dog to every cat to every animal out there, have different personalities and behave slightly differently. There might be some water monitors that don't like to climb. That's not very likely, but it's possible, right? There might be some water monitors that are not affectionate. That's pretty likely, right? Zander is a very affectionate water monitor, but what I'm getting at is that for practicality reasons, when you're considering building a cage, do a lot of research on what water monitors like, and then find out how you can plug that into a cage. Number 2 for practicality is what makes it simple for you. That's you guys. You need it simple for you. So I'm going to give you an example. When I walk into Zander's cage, my first step is on brick. I'm not getting my clothes dirty. I'm not stepping on substrate. I'm not making a mess because it's just right here and it's brick. This is practical. I can walk around Zander's cage. It's easy for me to climb up here and I can crouch over here, for me to set up and water the plants. I have to water these plants on a daily basis. If it wasn't practical for me to get to that plant, what would be the point of me putting that plant there, right? You got to make sure that it's as easy as possible for you to care for these guys. And that will make you a better reptile keeper in the first place, because it's really difficult to care for an Asian water monitor, and you got to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best situation possible. That would be, I guess, just the easiest way to explain practicality. You got to make it easy for yourself. You got to make it easy for a water monitor. If it was really difficult for Zander to get up to this basking spot, it might not be as practical, and I might want to rethink changing the cage up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and end on this. I think it's really important that people understand how difficult it is to take care of an Asian water monitor, because I do not want 90+% of the people that check out Asian water monitors to think it's for them. I want less than 10% of the people that check out my YouTube channel or our Instagram channel to think, oh yeah, this is for me. And the reason why, they're really difficult to care for. So just one example, and then we can kind of finish up this video. The reason that I have humidifiers in here, these are warm air humidifiers, the primary and only reason is because it's really difficult in the wintertime for me to maintain the humidities that I need between that hydrometer and this hydrometer, and then lower on the ground and over on the colder side of the cage, is because it's absolutely necessary to get the humidities where I need to. I can't tell you how frustrating it is that I have 8 different live plants, in Zander's cage that I water on a regular basis. I have all this substrate. I hose down the substrate and wet it every 2 days to every 3 days, and it still does not get, in the wintertime, the humidity that I need to properly care for this guy. So I have to take extra steps, like adding in warm air humidifiers into his cage to get the humidities where I need them to be. So that's just one really small example that you got to make sure you're on point. If I was a lazy reptile keeper and I came in here and I saw that, hey, this is really, really low, and I did nothing about it, then I'm not doing my job to properly care for this guy. And that means I should not be taking care of a water monitor in the first place. I should get an easier reptile to care for that isn't as high maintenance. They don't live as long. They don't get as large. It doesn't require as much on my end. So I hope you guys learned a bunch from this week's video for Monitor Cage Building 101. We talked about large bodies of water, plumbing systems, and filter systems are highly recommended. Definitely mandatory as water monitors get older. Basking shelves, absolutely necessary. They need 130 degrees plus basking shelf. Substrate, cypress mulch, leaf litter, and peat moss. Peat moss are the top 3 recommended. Great for humidity and substrate. And you also want to give them, like I said, a lay box, for digging much deeper and burrowing, because they really enjoy it. Levolution, make sure that your cage is high so you can have multiple different shelves and levels for them to have more exercise. Insulate the cage so that the humidities and the temperatures work correctly with all these other items. And 8 for practicality. Make it practical for your water monitor. Make it practical for you. And you will be in a good spot to properly housing and caring for these guys. So that way you too can potentially own a urban dinosaur and have an awesome relationship like Zander and I do. So appreciate the lizard love, everyone. Shoot us any questions, comments, whatever below. Shoot us DMs. Follow our Instagram page for more daily uploads for Life of Zander. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and you keep showing that lizard love. Thanks so much, guys. See you later.